Welcome back to Close Up. She ran for Congress in 2018 with her sights set on unseating Congresswoman Annie Kuster. She didn't make it out of a hard-fought Republican primary. But now Lynn Blankenbecker is back, still in fighting shape, and taking another shot at that Republican nomination. And she's our guest this morning. Ms. Blankenbecker, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Adam.
So you're a Navy nurse. A lot of experience out there in the field, in combat zones and all of this. But we have a pandemic going on now with COVID-19. So what's your perspective, not just as a candidate, but also from the medical side on this?
Oh, sure. You know, I think that, we definitely are taking common sense approaches to containing this pandemic here within the United States. We've certainly, folks are practicing now social distancing. People are washing their hands, something they should be doing anyway, whether it's cold or flu season, whether it's norovirus, whatever the virus is, we should always be washing our hands. And so I think that America is responding appropriately, and we are going to contain it.
So you were previously running a hospital in San Diego as part of your work, your service in the Navy, I should say. Now you're part of an expeditionary force. But what is the guidance right now coming from the military and the Navy about what servicemen and women should be doing?
Well, it's the same guidance that we've been practicing with everybody in America. The standard isn't any different for us. I mean, in a hospital situation, healthcare providers are a little more at risk because patients come in knowingly sick, and then we have to triage them out and make sure that what they have is, try to determine what they have and make a diagnosis. And so we are seeing healthcare providers, the way we practice medicine within a facility, for example, we have isolation rooms that folks who are exhibiting the symptoms that we think are associated with COVID, we're putting them in a different place. Oftentimes these rooms have backdoor exits so they don't have to go through the general population in the waiting room. And so we're just looking at mostly flow within our practice areas.
Is there anything you would change about the response so far you've seen in Washington? Anything coming out of Capitol Hill?
No, this is the first time we have ever seen a response like this, and this has been tremendous. Not only are we making the medical response, but they're making an economic response too, and we've not seen this before. I think that this administration has done a phenomenal job in helping educate the American people on how we contain the medical piece of it. Again, social distancing, washing our hands, using common sense, quarantining, self-quarantining, and those sorts of things. But then we're also looking at that economic response so that small businesses and other organizations aren't going to be economically disadvantaged by this. And I think it's really great. The best part of this is that the president has really pushed for a bipartisan approach to this, because let's face it, COVID doesn't know one party or the other. It doesn't know one person or another. Anybody is at risk. And so we are seeing that this bipartisan effort of coming together and working on all aspects of what the collateral damage from the COVID virus will have on our economy, as well as the medical piece of it, has been tremendous.
The White House is holding firm on some budget issues, though. Even though $8 billion has been appropriated for this so far, it could end up costing much more. The budget put out by the White House proposes cutting CDC funding by about $1 billion, and specifically $35 million for an infectious disease rapid response reserve fund. What's your perspective on this in terms of, you've been at the State House, cutting the underlying budget, that's going to be going forward. So once that appropriation, the special one, is exhausted, there could be less money for CDC. Is that wise?
Well, I mean, the president's looking at all of the pieces of this, right? And we're looking at where Congress is looking at where they're going to balance the budget. They're always in a balancing budget situation, right? We have to respond to different, whether it's a natural disaster, whether it's a medical emergency such as this. And so, I have confidence that they're making the right decisions and moving the money in the right way so that we can respond to this appropriately.
Speaking of balance, how should people balance concern and appropriate level of awareness with the fear that can sometimes develop?
Well, and I think that's one of the beauties of being in America, is that we all have choices, right? And so whatever that personal choice is that's yours, if you clearly, if you live with a person who is immunocompromised, maybe that elderly population with comorbidities, it's going to make the virus worse for them, then they should have a choice to be able to quarantine in different ways than, say, the general population. I know we're seeing major organizations, see major sports teams, and now we discussed Disney World starting to shut down, but that's their choice to make. And if they think that that's the best way that they can help combat this issue, then they should be able to make those choices.
From a big picture perspective, Republicans have always favored a healthcare system that maximizes freedom and choice for people rather than government control. How do you think that will hold up, that model, under a system or a situation in which so many people are going to need care?
Well, we see it exactly with this virus. I mean, it's a great example of how there are some who are more at risk than others, and so some are going to need a different level of care than others, right? We know that a young, healthy population, this really isn't going to significantly impact them, whereas our elderly population, say, for example, our members who maybe live in an assisted living facility, close quarters, you know, more immunocompromised, people with comorbidities, we're going to see that look different. We've already seen that look different in Washington when we saw the 19 folks who died in a nursing home, right? And so that freedom of choice to be able to choose the health care that's appropriate for you is absolutely underscored with this.
Right, but say I'm an older person who is not yet on Medicare, and I get COVID-19 and I'm in the hospital for weeks, ending up owing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. Should I owe that money?
Well, the government's looking at ways to mitigate that. We've already seen that they're putting in safeguards for folks, so the government's responding.
All right, let's shift over to politics here. As you make your case against Congresswoman Annie Kuster, should you become the nominee, do you think people are still going to be thinking about something like the impeachment from late last year? Is that still going to be an issue, do you think, in the 2020 election?
Well, arguably, that impeachment is going to go on forever and ever and ever until we stop that vicious cycle of we're going to impeach because we don't like you, right? They set a very dangerous precedent, and we're going to see that going forward. We have to be mature enough and be able to stop that cycle and move along, right? Our president, our duly elected president, we need to let the constitutional process work. And so I think it is still strong on folks' minds. I will tell you, I'm out talking to people every single day, and the thing that I hear, other than health care, is they are tired of the corruption. They are tired of the games and the antics that are going on in Congress. They want a Congress that's going to work for the people of New Hampshire and the United States, and not a Congress that's going to go down these rabbit holes all the time, and that's just done nothing but disrupt the way our government should be running.
So you're saying if you're part of a Republican majority Congress and there's a Democratic president, you would be someone saying, well, let's pump the brakes. We shouldn't be, like you said, going down every rabbit hole, potentially to impeach. Excuse me. I'm okay, don't worry.
No, I'm not worried at all. No, I mean, here's the bottom line. First of all, there has to be an impeachable offense, and we have to respect the American voters. The people who duly elect the president, we can't just impeach the president because we don't like the way they communicate or we don't like something about them. There has to be an impeachable offense. And so if there were truly an impeachable offense, then yes, that needs to be investigated. But just to continue down rabbit holes and make stuff up, no. I wouldn't support that.
A lot of Republicans didn't like the way President Obama was handling the war in Afghanistan during his administration in trying to draw down troops and withdrawal, but that's now exactly what President Trump is doing. Is President Trump making the right move?
Well, Adam, for 34 years, I have worn a uniform, and my job, which I believe is the most noble job in the United States military, is to care for our nation's warriors. And but I will tell you, if I am unemployed from that job, it wouldn't hurt my feelings. I mean, there's nothing more noble, like I said, but there's nothing, I mean, we have to take that seriously. American sons and daughters go out into the battlefield and are injured, God forbid, killed out there, right? And so we can't take that lightly. But I think this president has done a phenomenal job. He's been a great negotiator, and pretty much everything he's negotiated has worked in our favor. And his approach to how we've worked with the Taliban now in Afghanistan and working on a ceasefire, and we've seen that be successful so we can draw those troops down, is wonderful. Yes, we should not be in regime change wars or continue to nation rebuild in a nation where we have completed our mission, and we've completed our mission, and so it's time to start drawing down, and he's doing a great job.
When you say completed the mission there, you were serving in Afghanistan. You saw those who made the ultimate sacrifice. They were coming into your ward there. It's hard to say that any sacrifice like that is ever in vain. But is it difficult to stomach the idea that the Taliban is still going to have some kind of foothold on power in Afghanistan? Well,
our job there was to help diminish their capabilities there and deny them an opportunity to flourish, right? And so we did that, right? And but it's also part of our job while we were over there, especially under the previous administration, was to help train the nation so they could take care of themselves now. And so we have been training the nation, and they are taking care of themselves. And so at some point we have to let them, be the nation that they can be and help them or let them succeed.
You are a big defender of the Second Amendment. Are there any gun laws at the federal level that you would be looking to change if you're in Washington?
Well, yeah, I agree with constitutional carry across state lines. So I believe, I guess I would open up for universal carry. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Anything else, though? Obviously, Democrats want to push in the other direction.
Well, I think that I'm very hesitant to any kind of lists. Lists are become unconstitutional very quickly without a due process to get off lists. I'm not a supporter of those. No, there's just. We have several gun laws that I think go too far. I would like to see either a repeal of those, or at least repealing some of the difficult portions of those. But I'll work with our Congress and our other pro Second Amendment folks in Congress to make sure that we get common sense gun legislation that does not encroach on our Second Amendment rights.
All right, Lynn Blankenbecker, we'll see you out there on the campaign trail.
Thank you very much,
Right.
Adam.
We shouldn't be shaking hands.
There's
it's okay.
hand sanitizer.
You got hand
we'll
sanitizer
be okay.
right over there.
Yes.